My name is John Silvester. I'm a reporter with the Age newspaper. Some people call me Sly of the Underworld. There are 5 million crime stories in the naked city, and this is one of them. On April 21, 1976, 6 bandits raided the Victoria Club, where Melbourne's biggest bookies were settling their accounts with cash. No one knows the exact figure, but it was supposed to be in the vicinity of $15 million.
Tonight, an Australia-wide hunt is continuing for the Victoria Club bandits, so far without success.
What sort of people pulled off this Great Bookie Robbery?
I think they'd be pretty well-educated crims.
There was no abuse, no threatening, just they asked us to comply with what they said. We did.
The criminal wall of silence has remained intact, and the Great Bookie Robbery remains one of this country's greatest unsolved mysteries.
The team was Ray Chuck, Ian Fingers Carroll, Lawrence Prendergast, Normie Chops Lee, Vinnie Mickelson and Tony McNamara. The gang hauled 118 cash bags upstairs to an office and disappeared. They also left their weapons at the scene. So while police were looking for a van probably stolen, the gang spread out to get alibis. Ian Carroll had set up a lunch with his brother Greg and business associates at a Windsor hotel. Ian brought Vinnie Mickelson with him. Greg has written a book about those days called 11 Minutes, and it is a cracking read.
This was the front door into the actual Victoria Club. So you came up here, and same as we do, and went in through, and there was a reception desk just ahead.
This is the absolute fantastic thing because Greg, was it 114 or 118 bags? Do you remember?
118.
118 calico bags. Big devices. Now, this is the centre of Melbourne on a working day. You put a van out there and 6 of you moving that, it's going to take, what, 20 minutes?
Yeah.
So they were going to get caught. I mean, Russell Street Police headquarters is about 300 metres away.
Yeah.
You could run here in 2 minutes. So what did they do with the money?
Oh, they rented an office upstairs.
Directly up here?
Above. It was 2 floors up. And then they collected the money here, they took it up there, put it in a safe there so no one could steal it. And then they came down, they'd left the guns, which is a big issue here. So they had nothing. So they just stripped off their dust coats. They went down the back stairs over there to a back lane. So there's a back lane that runs out to Burke Street. So when the cops came and interviewed people looking for anyone leaving the building in Queen Street, they couldn't find anyone because they all just scattered through the back lane.
Ian, he used you as an alibi.
Yes.
So tell us what happened.
Well, I didn't know at the time, obviously. But he just asked me if I'd like to have lunch with him and some friends. And I said, yeah. So we ended up having lunch down at Windsor Hotel. But not the Windsor, as people know here. Windsor's the suburb. And there's an old hotel there called the Windsor Hotel.
And you had some business mates with you?
No, I didn't. Ian did.
Oh, he had his mates.
He had some other guys there.
And he brought Vinnie Mickelson, who was one of the robbers with him.
Yeah.
So you become the alibi witness because how the hell can you get rid of 118 calico bags, get away, hide the money, and get to your brother's lunch 20 minutes later?
Yeah.
So were you interviewed?
Sorry?
Were you interviewed by police?
Yes, I had to give a statement, and that's when I found out really that Ian was involved. It was when Ian approached me and said, "Look, can you go speak to my solicitor?" Which was Galbally.
But the news broke during the lunch.
Yes.
And you saw Ian. How did Ian react?
Yeah, well, he had a bit of a smirk on his face. I thought at the time, it was just professional pride. So, he thought, someone's done a good job here. But I didn't realise it was actually his own pride.
Yeah.
Ray Chuck was the mastermind of the bookie robbery using methods he'd learned from the Wembley mob in London. Carroll was well known to police. He'd been arrested with fellow painter and docker Neil Stanley Collingburn way back in 1971, when police found a set of golf clubs suspected of being stolen in the boot of the car the pair were using. Collingburn received fatal injuries while in police custody. Two detectives, Brian Francis Murphy and Carl John Stillman, were later acquitted of the manslaughter.
Ian was sucked into notoriety because he was in the car when Neil Stanley Collingburn was arrested back in the early 70s.
Yeah, 71 I think it was.
And Collingburn...
Subsequently he died?
Yeah.
He questioned.
So both were taken to Russell Street Police Headquarters.
Yeah.
Collingburn received fatal injuries within that complex, and Ian was the witness. But the two police were ultimately acquitted.
Yeah, Ian was quite badly injured himself. He had got a cracked skull. He spent 3 weeks in hospital at the time, so he wasn't an innocent bystander. I just think Ian was a boxer and he probably could take it better.
This is the original door frame, and when the doors are shut, it's exactly how it would have been back then. But Greg, you said that the bandits were in the building next door and there was a plastered walkway.
Yes. The next door down in the building was being renovated at the time, so it was unoccupied. So they came in and waited upstairs, and they'd cut a hole into the side of the door there that they were coming through, so they could spy through and see what was happening. And then once the money was delivered, they then smashed the wall down and came through.
The Victorian Club, home of Victoria's biggest and richest bookmakers. Have you been inside?
No. Bad enough losing your money to the bludgers, let alone drinking.
It's not my scene, mate.
For over 100 years, the bookies have been coming to this club after every race meeting to settle up their debts. It's called settling day. They've never been touched.
Sound like trouble.
Shut up.
Alf King was at the Victorian Club that day.
Oh, well, actually, I thought they must have been filming some documentary for TV because I saw people running in with guns and I didn't think that could be for real.
Two main Nicholas guards were quickly disarmed, and what followed was a methodical, well-organised rape of the takings from several race meetings. Miraculously, no one was hurt.
Boxing trainer Ambrose Palmer was one of the men at the Victoria Club. When the bandits told everyone to lay on the ground, McNamara broke the rules of not talking by saying, "You too, Ambrose," and the trainer recognised the voice. McNamara was to die of a drug overdose, and Lee was shot dead by police during a foiled armed robbery at the Melbourne airport. Not only were the police chasing the bookie robbers, but so were Standover brothers Les and Brian Kane.
Plenty of theories, plenty of hunches. So in Canberra today, Peter Harvey asked crime expert David Biles to sum up his study of the great bag job.
Mr. Biles, the biggest problem that they're going to have is getting rid of the money.
Yes, indeed. I think the bandits will be pretty nervous right now because the amount of money, the story varies, maybe up to 6 million is the latest I've heard. And if there are only 6 of them, or even if there are 10, that's a vast amount of money. And if they start spending at all, they'll draw attention to themselves.
Not from the police, but from the underworld.
I think the greatest danger for them personally is from the underworld, from two sources really, from informers who will be after the 70,000. But the more serious problem is those who will be out for their lives to get the larger haul.
In a preemptive attack, 3 men burst into Les Kane's Wantirna home in October 1978. Kane and his car were never seen again. Chuck Mickelson and Laurie Prendergast were charged and acquitted of the murder.
Police had been hunting for Bennett for several months. At first, he was wanted for questioning in relation to Kane's disappearance. Then 2 men, Vincent William Mickelson and Lawrence Joseph Prendergast, were charged with Kane's murder. Both men were present at a coroner's court inquest earlier this month, where it was found that Kane was shot dead at his Wantirna house in an underworld-style execution. Both Mickelson and Prendergast were remanded to appear before the Supreme Court at the first available sitting next month. A warrant was then issued for Bennett to also be arrested on a charge of murdering Cain.
This is the time we come calling for your review. The good ones will be acknowledged and the bad ones we will ignore because they are the height of treachery. Like this one. I am enthusiastic and impatient for the next episode. A very Moorish podcast. Thank you, Bert79, although the only Moor I know is a swampy one in foggy Yorkshire. Chuck was still facing a $69,000 armed robbery charge, which was why he was in court on November 12, 1979. Brian Cain was sitting there in a dark blue suit, a beard and gold-rimmed glasses, knowing Chuck would have to be led past him. Cain aimed a snub-nosed revolver and said, "Cop this," before firing at point-blank range.
Bennett was shot down by an unknown gunman as he was escorted through the city court for armed robbery charges. It was believed his murder was carried out by a contract killer.
It would have been impossible for Brian Cain not to have had inside help. The magistrate's court was a rat's warren, with little corridors leading everywhere, but Cain knew exactly where to go, running through the magistrate's car park to the back where the corrugated iron fence had already been peeled back. This is the courtyard. Now, already you've seen what a sort of rat's nest of a place this is. You get lost in a moment. Yet he knew exactly where to go to get out. There's no way he could have known how to get out and get through that without inside knowledge. Brian Murphy would later tell me that Cain had been secretly brought into the court on Sunday to work out his escape route, and Chuck was killed on the Monday. Brian Cain was shot dead in November 1982 at the Quarry Hotel. The gunmen were believed to be Russell Cox, who by this time had escaped from a New South Wales prison, and hitman Rod Collins. Cox and Carroll became business partners, pulling off major armed robberies.
Meet Russell Mad Dog Cox, a violent gunman, armed robber, prison escapologist, and Australia's most wanted man for 11 years.
Ian ended up with Russell Cox, a prison escapee, and the two of them were at least organising armed robberies.
Yes,
because
there's I think there's four or six major, six-figure robberies that the police then accredited. Once Ian was killed, obviously they went through all these paperworks and all that, and they worked out that he was responsible.
Yeah, and from my memory, there was a spike in the number of accounts that he had around the place after each one of these. Deposits of 40 grand here, 45 here.
Yeah.
Cox and his girlfriend Helen Dean were living in a rented home in Mount Martha. They were quiet and considered to be ideal neighbours, that is until January 3, 1983. On that day, Carroll came for a visit in his imported maroon Chevrolet utility. There was an argument, a physical altercation and a gunfight that left Carroll dead and Cox wounded. Later police would find a round hole in the shed floor where it was said Cox had removed a home brew barrel that had some of the proceeds from the bookie robbery. In the ceiling were armed robbery kits, guns, disguises, plans and even medications. Police were convinced the two were outsourcing stick-ups. Cox would spend another 5 years on the run before he was caught at the Doncaster shopping town preparing for another job.
It wasn't until a short time later that police realised just how notorious the two men were. The most infamous, Russell Mad Dog Cox, was for more than 10 years the most wanted man in Australia.
A few days before Ian was shot dead, Greg went to a restaurant with Cox, Ian and their partners. His views on Australia's number one fugitive are fascinating.
You became quite close to your brother.
I was very close. Yeah, I had dinner with Cox and Ian 3 nights before he shot Ian, and at the dinner I would have said they were best mates. So there was no hint that there was anything going to happen.
Well, he was a bit of a chameleon.
Yeah,
the figure, Coxie could be anything he wanted to be.
Yeah, and he was.
Hence why he was on the run for 11 years without getting caught. Pretty amazing. And the book that you've done, 11 Minutes, I've read it, and it's a cracking read.
Oh, thank you.
It really is good, and blends sort of fiction and fact, but it's got the spine of exactly what happened right here 50 years ago.
Yeah.
At the table of six, Greg spent time watching his brother's business partners. He wouldn't know that within days there would be a fatal gunfight.
Yeah, the first thing I remember is hearing about it was I guess I didn't believe it. Ian had been shot twice before. He had a habit of disappearing. The term is they go to ground. During the waterfront wars and then during even the investigation into the robbery, he would disappear for a while. So when I heard that he'd been shot down Mount Martha, my first, I guess, expectation was it wasn't really him, it was someone else, and he'd disappeared. So, initially I didn't get that, that feel of dread that I guess most people would feel when they hear about someone close dying. It didn't really hit me until I had to go and identify his body, and his wife couldn't do it, obviously, so she asked me to go do it, and I guess that's when it really hit me. Yeah, it was. I guess you'd say it was traumatic at the time, but since then, obviously, you get over it and you move on. Yeah, I guess I never really bought into the notoriety of Ian. I mean, Ian was Ian. Ian was bigger than life, and I guess I was in a bit of awe of Ian. He stood very large, so it was never a caricature. He was never, the gangster. He was a very focused and controlled type of guy. He knew exactly what he was doing. I guess I had a feeling that he was invincible, really. Yeah, there is a side of me that feels a sense of pride. I know that's not right, but you can't really help it. He did something which was quite amazing. They appeared out of nowhere. They took a lot of money, and then they disappeared into nowhere. And really, that's why they got away with it. It was, that was Ray, I guess, more so than Ian on that side of things. But coming in through the building next door, straight into the settling room. No one understood where they came from. And then hiding the money upstairs and leaving their guns and just walking out the back door. The cops never found anyone who witnessed anyone coming or going. And I think that was the real smart part about the robbery. And the fact that it was bookies cash, which meant it wasn't from the bank, so it wasn't serial numbered or anything like that. So after the event, they couldn't trace it. But the reason for writing the book and, the reason for writing the book was, I guess, more cathartic than it was expose type of thing. Over the years, you build up your view, and I guess I just had to, I really wanted to tell about what happened after the robbery, more so than the robbery itself. So to understand what happened afterwards, you have to understand what happened before. And they talk about the Great Bookie Robbery curse, as if it was something, evil or something. In my view, it wasn't. So I guess that's the story really that I wanted to tell. It all stemmed from the waterfront war. They talk about a war, and the war didn't finish. There wasn't ever an end to it. There was a truce. And the animosity from that war lingered and stayed. That's what really the aftermath was. The Brian Kane and Les Kane thing and Ray. All that was just a takeout from the original hatred that developed over the waterfront war.
Philip Dunn QC successfully defended the only man ever charged over the Great Bookie Robbery, Norman "Normie" Lee.
The fellows who did this robbery were very bold, very dangerous and very clever men.
The Queen Street raid became the focus of a top-rating television mini-series. After Lee was acquitted, he told his barrister details of the elaborate robbery. Among his claims, that the estimated $12 million haul was transferred to a room which the gang had rented in the same building and collected later.
And their troubles only began once the robbery was finished, because then a gang of criminals from Sydney, the toe cutters, came down and were after them, and not just their toes.
Detectives who investigated the case have rejected the new claims.
In view of what I know, the work that was done by the detectives at the time, I think it's very unlikely that that's the way it happened.
Lee was shot dead in a hold-up 6 years ago. His suspected colleagues have all since been murdered or disappeared.
There was a lot of underworld murders and then feuds that followed on from that, and paybacks, so it was quite a nasty, dangerous period of time.
Only a fraction of the money stolen from the former Victoria Club has ever been recovered, and investigators are convinced that none of the main suspects are alive to finally bring an end to the case.
This episode was produced by Tammy Mills and mixed by Cormac Lally. Thanks to Tom McKendrick and Lisa Muxworthy. We should always remember that Winston Churchill drank a pint of champagne at lunch, another pint at dinner. Then he would drink red wine. Adolf Hitler was a teetotaler. How did that work out? And as we say, there's a touch of evil in all of us. Good night and pleasant dreams.